You know, I got to tell you, for selfish reasons, completely, totally, my favorite days to talk about the news and what's going on and try to straighten this stuff out and how you can talk about it with your friends is when somebody, mostly the administration, mostly Trump, I mean, let's just admit it, is pissing somebody off somewhere. And you hear this all the time. Well, I mean, because that makes the best news stories. But you hear this all the time. Oh, I just wish we could go back to the days where there wasn't controversy every single day. Yeah, I get that. But here's the problem. When there was no controversy, that means there's no pushback, which means bad people very quietly were getting away with bad stuff. When you expose them, of course, it seems like madness, like they always push back. Case in point, this story that popped up yesterday about the new Pentagon rules for people covering in the media the Pentagon, which they're pushing back against. Oh, they're all upset about this. Oh, what's Trump doing? And then the spin, and they try to talk about what's happening here. But nobody ever talked about or even thought about what they were getting away with in the past, and that's the problem. So yes, it seems like chaos these days, but the chaos is a byproduct and a result of cleaning things up, I believe. And there's another one. We're going to talk about this story first and foremost. Another way that Trump got back from the Middle East Peace Summit right away and started pissing people off, which is why he's getting things done. Another threat. I'll call this, I always talk about this, Battleground Boston, because, well, number one, I'm familiar with that area. My whole family's from Massachusetts and New Hampshire. But it'll be the last area, the last state in the country that gets with the program. And the latest example of that is Trump's threat to take the World Cup away from them. So he upset all kinds of people about that, but the pushback on that is very, very weak. We'll talk about that as well. And to wrap this up, I didn't talk about this yesterday because I was waiting for the video to come out. This is celebrity news, but it's okay. We can make fun of it. We'll make fun of this. Alec Baldwin in the news again because he had a car crash. Not wishing that on anybody, but he's fine. But he was in the car with his brother, Stephen Baldwin, which you'll hear is relevant to the story. He's got an explanation for this, but I'm going to give you the real reason for the car crash based on absolutely nothing and no facts except what I made up in my head. But don't let that get in the way of a good story. First of all, thanks for a Wicked Radio live stream and the replay here on all your favorite channels, and you audio-only listeners on your favorite podcasts, make sure you press subscribe as well. On Spotify, you got to press follow. That's how they do it on that thing. But anyway, let's get right to it. This is the best Trump. This is where he's pissing everybody off. And you don't like that word, I apologize, but he's aggravating everybody for a reason. First and foremost, let's start it off with this one because it's my favorite story of the day. Last week, and apparently a lot of you agreed with me, some disagreed, but according to the comments, you're starting to get the gist of why I call it Battleground Boston. And by Boston, consider the entire region, because what happens in Boston determines what happens in the rest of Massachusetts, which is relevant and part of this whole story. So, I had one of those conference room press conferences yesterday where all this stuff came from. Now, Trump has said before that Boston's going to have to clean up. Mayor Wuhan, as I call her, has been one of the most obstinate mayors in the country, refusing to get federal help, tripling down on becoming a sanctuary city for illegals, flat out protecting illegal criminals, some of the worst of which, we've all heard Tom Homan talk about some of the arrests in Boston. Per capita, the most violent offenders that ICE has run into in any of these cities, the worst of the worst. But they always come out with the crime statistics in Boston, and they love to tell you it's the safest city. Traditionally and historically, it's been one of the safest cities. Well, let me tell you, traditionally and historically, crime stats are the easiest to manipulate, number one. Number two, nobody with any set of working eyeballs or common sense will tell you that Boston is as safe as it has been if you've been there recently. It just isn't, like all major cities. No cash bail is a big part of that. Completely corrupt prosecutors, all of it combined in one. So, Trump yesterday floated the idea, and it made it to the conference room, of taking the World Cup away from Boston. This is the moment he talked about it. Because, number one, Trump loves that the World Cup is coming to the U.S. He said it before. He said it many times. He goes, I think it's great the way it worked out. Yes, they stole my election from me. But I get the World Cup, and I get America's 250th birthday party. But he loves this kind of stuff. So this is what he said yesterday. It sparked the controversy.
Boston. The answer is yes. If somebody is doing a bad job, and if I feel there's unsafe conditions, I would call Johnny, the head of FIFA, who's phenomenal, and I would say, let's move it to another location. And he would do that. He wouldn't love to do it, but he'd do it. Very easily he'd do it. And this
I just love Trump. This is where Trump he always amuses me because he's like, I called Johnny. And when he gets him on the phone, too, the president of FIFA, massive sports organization, the World Soccer Organization, he'd get on the phone and say, Johnny, hey, it's Don. Yeah, listen, it's your favorite president. You got to move the World Cup out of Boston. Now, this is the reaction and the pushback that's been amazing to me. Now, I'm as you know, I'm wearing some kind of a Boston area sports item almost every single day here in the live stream. I'm a massive Boston sports fan, and I'm very familiar with Boston sports media because I've been listening to it and following it and watching it for years. There's a certain arrogance in Boston sports media that's existed for even way before the last 25 years of championships happened. It just has been there. So the pushback has been really interesting to see. And they're all coming out of the woodwork now. And a lot of these Boston media sports people have made it to the national stage. Like Albert Breer. Now, he started covering the Patriots locally in New England and then became, a national sports reporter, I think for Sports Illustrated. I'm not too sure, but he's a national name now. And if you follow the NFL, you know who Bert Breer is. He wasn't the only one, but just for example, his post this morning said this about President Trump and the whole FIFA story and the threat to taking it away from Boston. Doesn't he know that the stadium is not in Boston? And I've seen this comment dozens of times so far, basically trying to mock President Trump about the stadium. And it's true. So potentially, if this goes through, and it probably still will, the World Cup coming up next year will be in Gillette Stadium, which is where the Patriots played. It's not in Boston proper. It's halfway between Boston and Providence, right? So it's 35, 40 minutes as you drive south of Boston. So they're trying to use this as a gotcha. But it's such a weak gotcha because, number one, yes, Trump knows that, but he also completely understands that what happens in Boston, and if you threaten this, threatens the entire state. So he's one step ahead of you, really. That's not the gotcha you think it is. Because by doing this, by threatening taking the World Cup game out of Massachusetts, now he's got something. Now he's got some leverage on an entire state as opposed to just a city, like he has with D.C. and Chicago and L.A. So he can affect an entire state this time. So he's already one step ahead of you there. And here's the other thing in the comeback, if you want to push back against this, and you hear people saying this. He's so stupid. The stadium's not even in Boston, so ha ha. Here's the thing. When FIFA announced the American cities for the World Cup coming up in 2026, they listed it as Boston. Sorry. And they also listed one of the other major cities for the FIFA World Cup in the States as New York. MetLife Stadium's in New Jersey. So if they want to play a tit-for-tat game for you, throw that at them. It's the simplest comment. Well, FIFA said it's Boston, and they also said New York. But they're playing in New Jersey, so I don't think that's the exact gotcha you think. But this has more weight than you actually may see at first. It sounds like a silly thing because it's sports-related. This is big. I mean, this World Cup thing, you may not be a soccer. I'm not the biggest soccer fan, but I can understand the massive, massive economic benefits that having the World Cup means to any city or any region in the world. To take that away is a big deal. And there's plenty of other people, too, that are out there saying this morning, he's not going to do that. Is so not plausible to take the World Cup away from Massachusetts. I'd back off on that one a little bit. I really, really would. It matters, and there are plenty of other cities. I mean, if you think back to all the cities that were campaigning and politicking to get the World Cup as a host city, there are plenty of other cities that would. And he actually is pretty tight with this Johnny guy, the head of FIFA organization. Johnny, it's your favorite president. I'm telling you, it's more of a threat than you think because the economic. I'll put it this way. It's on par, if not bigger, than having the Super Bowl in your city for the amount of tourism dollars, tax dollars it brings in, revenue, and just prestige. It's massive. So don't overlook that. The other thing he did yesterday, same table, same seat, same press conference from that conference room, which I love when he does this because the entire cabinet is there. was he talked about, and along with Pete Hegseth, who you'll hear here in this clip, which is a little long but explains it so well, new Pentagon rules, not for war, Pentagon rules for the media that are supposedly covering the Pentagon fairly and, objectively. But have they been? Have they been really? So they issued new rules, and they said that you're going to have to identify where you're from at all times, right? And you're not going to have unfettered access to any general, any military, any cabinet member that you want at any time, like they have been for the past, I don't know how many decades. Does that sound that restrictive to you? Is that much of a challenge? But all but one media organization, and I think the one media organization that signed on and agreed to it is like One America News or some, smaller outfit. But they're all pushing back on this so hard. But you got to ask yourself why. Here's the explanation. Again, a little long here, but Trump explains it. Pete Hegseth really.
Do you consider removing new restrictions on the press that report at the Pentagon? And have you spoken to Secretary Hegseth about this?
I have, yeah. Well, he's finding, I think I can speak for him. I'll let him speak for himself, but I think he finds the press to be very disruptive in terms of world peace and maybe security for our nation. Press is very dishonest. Not you, but the press is very dishonest. Do you have something to say?
Well, I very much appreciate the question because it was interesting to watch. We had a chance to go along on the historic trip of Middle East peace, which our generation of veterans never dreamed would be possible. So you would think that the Pentagon press corps of all press corps would be front and center across the board on wanting to give credit to the president for forging this kind of peace, and instead what they want to talk about is a policy about them, which simply says maybe the policy should look like the White House or other military installations.
That in a nutshell, I'm so glad he said it. It explains our so-called free press so well. This has been their number one issue. Instead of talking about, by the way, they're only on like point number 2 of the 20-point peace plan in the Middle East. Are these international Pentagon reporters talking about that? No. The main story has been about them. Oh, they're clutching their pearls. What do you mean we're going to have to wear press badges? What? I can't believe. What do you mean we can't just grab a general in the hall and have a private backroom meeting with them anytime we want? Oh, don't you understand? We're the media. That's the problem. And that's why I'm so glad the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, pointed that out so well. In fact, here's the response from this one happened to be CBS, but this is the same statement. They're all in unison because they're all so outraged that they could actually get some pushback. Oh, we're the media. Oh, well, if you weren't propagandized, politicized disinformation outlets, you wouldn't have this problem. So here's the statement from CBS. Today, we join virtually every other news organization in declining to agree to the Pentagon's new requirements, which would restrict journalists' ability to keep the nation and the world informed in important national security issues. The policy's without precedent. True. And threatens more journalistic protections. We will continue to cover the U.S. military as each of our organizations has done for many decades, upholding the principles of a free and independent press. Let me ask you this. Do you think that's been a true, free, and independent press for your lifetime? And I'm assuming you're like, younger than me or my age or middle age or been around the world for a few decades. You think it's been free and independent, especially with the Pentagon? The security concern here and the real important stuff is leaking military secrets, which we know as a fact. And it was long, but Pete Hegseth went on to talk about that. They have, in fact, leaked military secrets, which is, first of all, dangerous for all of us. And the second thing is it really that tough? Is it that tough to wear a press badge and to identify who you are and go through proper channels to actually get an interview or get information or get Pentagon press room access? Is it that tough? If you can't, there are plenty of independent journalists that aren't part of those organizations that cover military affairs, like big ones, like real people that don't have that kind of access, and they do just fine in covering the national military stories. If you can't do that, those simple things, you suck as a reporter, quite frankly. They can't do that, and it explains them so well. They think they're gods. They really think that they're untouchable. Oh, I can't. We will not sign on. What do you mean you're going to make us follow rules? They have no rules as it is right now. They don't have any rules. And I'll say it again. If they were a true, free, independent, objective press, none of this would be happening, but they're not. And that explains the problem exactly. So they're going to play ball or they're not. And nobody's national security is going to be affected one way or another by their new rules, making them play by the rules and cracking down a little bit. But again, it goes back to what I was saying in the beginning. You hear this all the time from people. Oh, it's day after day. It's just, there's some sort of pushback. You should be glad about that pushback. What seems to be chaos is fixing massive problems that existed before. Because when it was quiet, when nobody paid attention to anything, when you didn't even know who, the members of the cabinets were. Think back to Obama, real quick, pop quiz. Go back to Obama or Clinton's cabinet. Could you name them all? No, you can name a ton of the Trump ones now because they're in the news, because they're doing something. When it's quiet up there, when the swamp is quiet, that's when you should get nervous that nothing's happening. That's when you get nervous, because bad things are happening under the surface, the creepy, slimy surface of the Washington, D.C. swamp. Embrace the outrage. Embrace the chaos, because things are getting fixed. That's your main takeaway, all right? The media clutching their pearls. It's ridiculous. All right, let's go to my favorite story. And I intentionally didn't talk about this yesterday. I wanted more facts to come in. So this is a celebrity news story, granted. You know that this makes no impact on the world whatsoever. And it's not like your day-to-day life is dependent on what the hell Alec Baldwin is doing, that dope. But he gives us some fodder. It's been a lot of serious news, obviously, so we can make fun of him once again. First of all, he released another one of those. He did another one of those videos that looks like a hostage video after his car crash on, I think it was Monday night. It was definitely the 13th. He was in a car crash. He crashed Hilaria's car with his brother Steven in the passenger seat, which is relevant to the story. All right? First of all, here's his video explanation of it. Ask yourself the first question. Why does he have to release a video of this explaining it? And it looks eerily similar to the ones he released after remember the Rust movie shooting? Where he explained his side of the story and he kept on doing these videos. It looks like a hostage video. Why does he do this, first of all? Anyway, this is what he released. He's explaining his side of the story, and we can make fun of it.
Number of names. But this morning I was in this car accident. Guy cut me off in a truck. Big garbage truck. I mean, a garbage truck the size of a whale. I've never seen a garbage truck. It must have been something commercial for taking away material from construction or something. It was the biggest garbage truck I've ever seen. Anyway, I won't go into the details now and bore you, but to avoid hitting him, I hit a tree. I hit a big fat tree and crushed my car, my wife's car. I crushed my wife's car. I feel bad about that, but it's all fine, and I'm fine, and my brother's fine, and blah-biddy-blah. Congratulations to everybody on the film festival. Thank you to the East Hampton Police Department, the town police department, for coming to my aid.
First of all, again, why is he releasing these videos after everything? How many celebrities, actors, whoever the hell they are, have to release a video explaining every single step and detail of what's going on? He has to do that all the time now. Very suspicious. I don't know why he would do that. Other actors and actresses don't release a video with the supposed details of the car crash. That was the first weird thing. But I'm going to give you, this is the real reason. This is the real explanation on what led to Alec Baldwin's car crash. Based on absolutely nothing and no facts and only what I made up in my head. But don't let that get in the way of a great story. Here's exactly what happened in the Alec Baldwin car crash. What's relevant to the story is what he explained there. He was with his brother Steven in the car at the time. So it's Alec Baldwin, Stephen Baldwin in a car at night driving. And it was Monday the 13th. The very day that the hostages were released in the Middle East and the peace plan was announced, and Trump was getting even some credit from the Hollywood celebrities that he claims to know so well. Here's what really happened, based on nothing but my imagination. So they're in the car and they're driving. And Stephen Baldwin, as you know, is like the rebel Baldwin. He's the one that actually makes a lot of common sense. He's more conservative and he fights with the other Baldwins all the time. Alec Baldwin, as you know, is a dopey, loony lib who just may be the biggest TDS, Trump derangement syndrome sufferer in Hollywood. So they're in the car and they're fighting and they're arguing about who should take credit. And Alec Baldwin's there. He's all, fat and bloated and he's all upset and he's driving. He's like, no, this was Biden's plan. Biden did this. And Stephen Baldwin's there giving him a hard time. He goes, you're such a dope. And then he got all distracted and he was going to hit Stephen Baldwin and he turned the car and he hit a tree. And that's the reason for the Alec Baldwin car crash. I completely made that up. But couldn't you see it happening? I mean, come on. Anyway, I don't know why the guy has to keep doing these hostage videos, but he has to explain it to us anyway. Who the hell knows? All right, number one takeaway. All of these issues, Battleground Boston, Pentagon media rules, all of this stuff, it seems like chaos every day. I'm telling you. And when you hear your friends say this, you hear your family say this, why is it so crazy every day with this president? It's because they're getting things done. You should embrace the chaos. When it's quiet in the swamp, that's when you should get nervous. Second takeaway is, thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate you as always. It's only Wednesday. Make it a wicked awesome midweek. Also, audio podcast listeners, thank you so much. Press download, subscribe, follow, whatever your favorite platform requires. And also Facebook viewers, press follow as well. I appreciate you so much. The replay lives on here and all your other favorite news channels as well. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but it's going to be fun. I guarantee that. Make it a wicked awesome Wednesday. Talk to you tomorrow.